other than to crash my head into his head upon command and do it again and again and again throughout the game. That's my whole job. Crash my head into his head as hard as I can and try to hurt him worse than he hurts me. So, so I've got a fair amount of, personal experience in this space, and I played nose guard and defensive tackle in high school, and growing up I did as well, and also played a little bit of fullback. I think I think it was time for the NFL to admit it. Even when they did it a little bit herky-jerky. They admitted it at a congressional hearing. Then a couple hours later, they kind of pulled their statement back, and they were like, no. I mean, we didn't really mean that the way it sounded. We didn't quite mean that we knew that we were involved in CTE, but so they kind of pulled back, and then the next morning they re-rolled it. They rolled it back out and said, we did already kind of step in it, and we already said it at a congressional hearing, so I guess we are kind of on the record. So, so CTE exists, so it's a real thing. So it does exist. Okay, so it does exist. Now, to me, I think the question is, let's say a guy like me, who grew up with two brothers. I'm not going to say we were the Gronkowski brothers, but I grew up with two brothers and friends and cousins and everything. And we just played sports like a lot of boys. You just play a whole bunch of sports, and a lot of times it's not even the organized sports that are the problem. It's the dumb stuff you do in your own house. It's just the house dumb stuff you do. Just diving off of bunk beds. Diving for balls in your basement, crashing your head into a wall, playing, wiffle ball inside in the basement, or hitting each other with a mallet outside while you're playing, golf or something, or with a croquet mallet, or whatever you're doing, a wiffle ball, a baseball bat, pick up a ski and hit somebody, and God forbid it be a fight, because then anything is fair game. So it's that level of stupidness and competitiveness amongst boys in a home that a lot of things can happen. But let's just say you're a boy growing up, you could just crash and for girls too, because they're saying the girls have a lot of injuries now with soccer balls and concussions and stuff, which I find a little bit hard to believe, but I guess if that's what folks are saying, that's what they're saying. I mean, to me, there's a definite difference between a soccer ball hitting my head and another 300-pound dude hitting my head with a helmet. And I've done both. Now maybe the difference has to do with size and body weight and me being accustomed to having my head crashed by another dude. Because the soccer ball doesn't, I've never been hit with a soccer ball and felt like, oh my God. Now maybe I got hit with a soccer ball in the head and maybe I got pissed. Maybe I got mad because somebody bounced the soccer ball off my head, or I was playing volleyball or bombardment or dodgeball or something, and somebody threw a ball and hit me in the head. That might have pissed me off, but it didn't necessarily concuss me. I will say that I've been stunned playing football, personally. I've definitely been stunned. I can't say for sure that I've gotten a concussion playing football. I can say for sure that I have been, I think one time I might have gotten a concussion playing football, maybe, but, one time I just got hit, maybe twice, but one time I get hit really hard in the face, and my face mask, a guy landed on me, and the face mask crumbled on my face. The bolts and everything came off the face mask, and the thing crumbled on my face. So that wasn't pleasant, and that was a little bit stunning, but I don't remember feeling that dizzy. And another time I got hit really hard, got hit in the gut, and then somebody came and hit me in the head. I was carrying the ball. It was one of the last times I carried the ball, probably for this reason, but I got hit in the gut. I was running too high with the ball, got lowered, the smaller dude came low, hit me in the gut, tried to knock the ball loose, hit me so hard in the gut that I actually lost control of my bodily functions on the field. Some of them, not all of them. It wasn't that noticeable, but that was awkward and not good. And then so it was like a gut, then another guy hit me in the head. So that was a problem. But going back to what you can hold the NFL kind of responsible for, I just don't know with the accumulation of injuries that one can get growing up, playing sports, playing competitive sports, growing up as boys and girls, and having siblings and just doing dumb stuff as a kid. I don't know how you roll up a body of work and say, here, NFL, it's all you. This is all on you. Like, I know for sure when I did get a really bad concussion was from a skiing injury. Similar to a couple of guys who, I think one of the Kennedy, if memory serves correctly, one of the Kennedys died in a skiing accident. I don't know, maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago. Time goes by so fast. But I think one of the Kennedy sons or uncles, somebody died in a skiing accident. They were playing some sort of frisbee on the mountain, and then also Sonny Bono died in a skiing accident. Both Kennedy and Bono hit their heads, had head injuries skiing. I too had a really severe head injury with a ski accident, and I was in the hospital for like 2 weeks up in Vermont, and then I was home for like another week. And this is when I was at I want to say about 12 years old or so, somewhere in there. So it was a long time ago. But the effects of that were clearly profound. I mean, that was like a devastating injury and concussion. I mean, really, really severe headaches, just incredible pain. And the person who found me thought that I actually had died on the mountain when he found me because I was out like that. All of that being said, I lived to ski after that. I lived to play ball after that. I was blessed to have a happy and healthy life. But when I look at an injury like that, now that happened to be my severe injury, but I suspect, and knowing a lot of guys, and it can happen to girls also, obviously, but kids have accidents. I mean, my own daughter had an accident a few weeks ago, a couple of months ago in her home, and she just kind of, at some point, lost her equilibrium and wasn't focused on doing something, but fell down a couple of stairs and kind of bumped her head against a wall, and her mom ended up taking her to the hospital, and she had a concussion for a few weeks, had some bad headaches, what have you. So stuff happens to kids growing up. So I just don't know. When all the people who want to assign all the blame to the NFL as if the NFL is the evil empire. And, the NFL is just, it's the evil empire. It's Exxon, it's Mobil. We've got to take it down. It's Walmart. It's the big behemoth. That's like where the football hate comes from. And I'm just not on board with it. I'm not on board with the whole football hate. Now, I'm also not on board with the NFL saying that we don't have anything to do with this at all. I think they can take some onus and some responsibility and take a responsible position to get help for those athletes who need it, especially later on in life. I mean, frankly, what I would like to see, if I, not that it's all the money in the world, but what I would like to see from an NFL perspective and an NFLPA perspective. Number one, I think both institutions need to get along much better, obviously, and need to somehow have some relationship and some common ground. But I'd like to see them take the kinds of money that they've currently put against something like Deflategate, which is now around $20 million going back and forth about these inflatable footballs. I'd like to see them take those kinds of resources and make that $20 million and maybe put some more money with it from some more sponsors, advertisers, etc. And maybe some of these current players who have made an absurd amount of money, maybe they throw a couple of dollars into the kitty. But to help out older guys who did not make anywhere near the kind of money that guys are making now, but guys who have serious medical problems, who need wheelchairs, who need help, who need all kinds of resources, and simply don't have the resources. I mean, I think when you see these guys in the Hall of Fame, the older guys, I think that I read somewhere that a guy like Mean Joe Green, who's the iconic guy who was a mean defensive lineman, played in the Pittsburgh Steelers, et cetera, et cetera. Did the, the iconic Coca-Cola commercial at the Super Bowl years after, and thanks Mean Joe and the whole thing. I want to say that I read somewhere that Mean Joe Green made something like $75,000 a year. Maybe it was a little bit more than that. Maybe it was $100,000 or $200,000 a year. Not to be that cavalier about the money now, but when you see guys now who are just marginal, just they're great athletes in their own right, but they're marginal by NFL standards. And this was a standout Hall of Fame guy who was making, a tiny bit of money. Joe happens to be in pretty good health. But when you see these average Joes, no pun intended, or plenty of pun intended, when you see these average Joes who are making, $5 million, $8 million, $10 million, $15, $20 million, these run-of-the-mill average Joe quarterbacks who are just showing up for work, who are just making $20 million, you say to yourself, what if we put some of this money towards the guys who really needed it? Who really needed it at this point? That's where I think the NFL and the NFLPA, I think that, Roger Goodell and DeMaurice Smith, maybe if there's too much bitterness between the two of them right now, maybe they have some people on their staffs try and get together and do some, fence mending and healing. But I think somewhere along the way, the NFL should have an appreciation for what it is, what it has become, and what they've built. And they built that with, in large part with a guy like, a Pete Rozelle and then a Paul Tagliabue having very good relationships with the guys who represented the NFLPA, which during Tagliabue's era for a long time was Gene Upshaw. But I think somehow you got to get back to the point where that bond and that relationship, it doesn't have to be like you got to be, bedfellows and lovers every day, but you got to appreciate that you built this entity that is, a 9, 10, 11, $12 billion, entity that is like certainly this nation's favorite sport. I won't say the world's favorite sport, but certainly the nation's favorite sport. And there's got to be some value to, appreciating that at a different level. And I just don't see that happens. So that's kind of my CTE perspective, and I just think that we need to do better by the older players, because there's money there to be had, and we're spending it now on frivolous, ridiculous stuff like deflated footballs, and there's got to be a way to make some of that money, available for some other entities that just make more sense, because at the end of the day, no matter how you, say one or two more things about this, but at the end of the day, no matter how you look at CTE and no matter how you look at football, people are not going to stop playing football in this country. They're just not. I don't believe that. I don't believe in my lifetime that they're going to stop playing football in this country. Now, there's other. If when you ask people like my parents or people from that era, they didn't think in their lifetime that we were going to have a black president, and now we got a black president. So I feel like in my lifetime that we're not going to stop playing football in this country. Certainly not going to stop it over head injuries, because to me, it is a dangerous line of work. Let me share something what a doctor once told me, who did my reconstructive knee surgery for me when I was in Philadelphia. He at the time he was the doctor actually for the Philadelphia Eagles, but very good doctor. So I have no qualms, no issues with him. But I remember going to see him. I want to say it was about a year or so after my surgery, maybe 2 years after. Maybe like 2 years after my major reconstructive knee surgery. I had torn, 2 ligaments, both pieces of cartilage. I had to reconstruct the whole thing and, splice my tendon and thread it through some holes and tie a knot and extensive rehab, the whole thing. But he made a big, strong knee, and I have a big, I was a big dude, big body, big leg, and he had to put it all together, and it all went well. range of